right now at this very moment, I am 39 years old. But this time tomorrow, I'm going to be 40. And you know what that means? I'm officially old. It's happened. Well, it hasn't officially happened yet, but this time tomorrow, it will be official. And I mean, some of you are watching this and you're much older than that. And you're like, shut up. And it's just a joke. But I am old enough to remember a time before we had these cell phones. A time where if you wanted to call somebody, you had to pick up a landline at home. I mean, most of us don't even have landlines now, but you would have to pick up a phone or go home, pick up a phone, put in a series of numbers, and then hope that whoever you're trying to call on the other end is also home so they can pick up their landline, and then you can communicate a certain way. You had to jump through all these hoops just to have a conversation. But I mean, well, there was this one time I should tell you that, I mean, it's very important that I tell you a story, right? But whenever I was 5 years old, my dad took me on a boat ride, and we lived up in Wisconsin. We went out on some river, and he had one of those little aluminum boats, and with the motor in the back where you steer back there, and I was sitting in the front. And me being 5 years old, every time a ski boat went by, I would want him to hit those waves so we could jump over them. It was fun. And so he did that multiple times that day. But then there was one time, and I don't know how this happened, but he hit it. The wave was either big or he hit it at a weird angle, but we flipped over. The entire boat, everything in it, went to the bottom of the river. And somehow I ended up at the back of this boat where the propeller is. And we ended up getting back in the boat, and like nothing really happened. And I was laughing, he was laughing. And then suddenly I can still see it. I was 5 years old. And this is 35 almost tomorrow, 35 years ago. And I can still see my dad's face of horror when he looked at me, because what had happened is that propeller had hit me multiple times in the back of the head. Thankfully, it was a little bitty propeller, so it didn't kill me. If anyone's wondering, it didn't kill me, but it did some damage. And so I was laughing. I didn't even feel it, but then I put my hand on my head and I see just blood coming down everywhere. And it was just, I mean, if you know anything about head wounds, it's a mess, and it's hard to get it to stop. So anyway, we didn't have cell phones at that time. So he rushes or gets the boat. We pull it, or he pulls it up on the shore. We rush to his truck. He takes us back to our apartment and puts all these towels and stuff trying to get it to stop bleeding, and nothing was working. So then he finally decides he's going to take me to the emergency room, which at that time was pretty cool because, I mean, I was hysterical, of course, but I remember him putting the flashers on in his truck, the emergency lights or whatever, and going through every red light, just flying. I'm like, you can just do that? You can't just do that. But anyway, that's what he did, and I thought it was cool. So we got there. I got some stitches in my head. I still have scars. I think that's why I'm bald now, because the propeller messed up my follicle situation. That's the only reasoning I can come up with why I'm the only bald person in our family. But so my mom, she's pregnant with my brother at the time. Me and him are almost 6 years apart, and she hadn't heard from us in a while. She goes home, and what does she see? She sees bloody towels all over the place, and she starts freaking out. Then she goes down to the river to see where we are there. There's blood all over the boat. She is a mess, and there's nothing she could do. She didn't know what happened, and there was no cell phone signal. But if that were to happen today, we were in an accident, he's fine, we just got to run to the hospital, and it'll all be okay. No problem. It's kind of like Seinfeld. You ever watch episodes of Seinfeld, like when they're lost in a parking garage? If only they had one of these, 75, 80% of Seinfeld episodes wouldn't even exist. So, but the whole point of that is that we have this opportunity now where before it was, you had to kind of get lucky and dial a certain number, and then hopefully the other person would answer on the other side. But now we have full access to each other, for better or for worse, but there are good things about that. And that's the same way that all frequencies work. I mean, there's frequencies all over the place, whether you can see it or not. We know they're there. There's Wi-Fi in this house. There's radio waves and cell phone. I don't know all this stuff, but there's stuff all over the place that we can't see. But if we can get on that right frequency, we can communicate with others, and you can communicate with somebody on the other side of the planet even. That's an amazing thing. And that's the exact same thing in this world that we live in. There is a natural frequency that most people live in. And then there's another frequency. I talked about it last week, a spirit frequency or heaven's frequency right here. And we can actually learn how to tap into that frequency in order to live a life of purpose, a life that we were created to live. So that's what we're going to talk about today in this episode. Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Clint Zeller, and this is BrainWashed, and we call it BrainWashed because our brains need a good washing of some old garbage that just isn't working for us, never worked for us. And so we wash our brains of some stuff. But today we're going to talk about heaven's frequency. And there is a verse in 1 Corinthians 13. I'm just going to read it to you, actually. It's 1 Corinthians 13:13. And now abide faith, hope, love, these three, but the greatest of these is love. You may have heard of 1 Corinthians 13 referred to as a love chapter, where it just lays out exactly what love looks like. Love is patient and kind and pays no attention to a suffered wrong and is long-suffering. And it's just all these amazing ways to describe what love looks like. But then you also know that God is love. So not only does the love chapter show us what love means, but it also reveals to us the true character of the Father, his entire essence. He's patient and kind and pays no attention to a suffered wrong. And that's such a powerful, powerful message. And I think it's obvious that in 1 Corinthians 13:13, it says the greatest of these is love. So that needs to be our main focus. And it is for a lot of people, especially whenever we've kind of deconstructed some things, gotten rid of some old ways of thinking like God's angry or he's punishing you or there's certain people in this world that he doesn't love and we're a special people because we said a certain prayer, a number of different things. We have all these different views of who God is, and then we get rid of that and we're like, no, God was in Christ reconciling the world to himself, and for God so loved the world that he gave everything for you and for me and for them. And it's just a very powerful foundational truth. It's the greatest of all truths, but it's not the only truth, right? And I'm not saying, it flows in and out of everything. So it's not, okay, this week we're talking about God's love, and then next week we're going to talk about this other topic. We're going to talk about faith and then hope over here. It should flow through everything that we do. But we shouldn't just stop with God loves you. And because then what? And that's always been my focus. Of course, my main focus will be the love of God and what he means, or what the life that he's created for you, and all those types of things. But what do we do with it? It's great if you grew up trying to get God happy or try to please God, and you're giving a certain amount to your church or serving or a number of different things. You're not cussing or you're confessing all your sin, and now you're free from all those things. What do you do with it? And I think that's where faith and hope take over. It's this progression that takes place. So you have this foundation of Christ and love, and Jesus came to reveal the heart of the Father. But then now what? Now we know that man, I'm not alone in this. I can step into something greater, this purpose that God's placed on the inside of each and every one of us. I get to experience it. That's what kingdom living is about, starting to walk out our salvation, or work out our salvation little by little. That completeness, that sozo that's on the inside of us, we get to start to journey through life because we know that there's nothing that can separate us from the love of God ever again. But then this progression takes place into faith and love. And this is such an important topic because that's what allows us or propels us into tapping into heaven's frequency. One of my favorite verses, I may have already said it in some other episodes. You'll definitely hear it again, but it's Hebrews 11:1 in the Amplified. It says, "Now faith is the assurance, the confirmation, the title deed of the things we hope for." Real quick, title deed that means you're the owner of it. You have the title of your car or your home or something. You have the title of it. It means you're not trying to work for it. It means you are already in possession of it. Everything you need for life and godliness is on the inside of you already. Now we just work those things out, and we do that by acknowledging the fact that that's true, gratitude and repetition. There's a number of different ways to work those things out, but you are in possession of everything you need for life and godliness. Not just godliness where we can live ultra spiritual lives, but life in general. It makes you a better husband or wife or parent or friend and coworker, employee, whatever it is that you do, you become better at it and you become more fulfilled in it because you know what you're in possession of already. It changes everything. But anyway, it says, it's the confirmation, the title deed of the things we hope for. In Greek, that word for hope, it's not hope like we think where, oh, I really hope this thing happens. I really hope that I can experience peace that surpasses understanding. That's what people talk about, and I hope it's true for me, or I hope that things will start to work out. I hope that life gets better for me. No, when you know the love of God, that you are the child of a king, your royalty, then an expectation comes with that. It's a confident expectation that what God says about me is true. It's a confident expectation that the cross worked, that it actually made a difference. Yet most Christians are out there living as if the cross never happened and that God doesn't feel the way about you as he does other people. And this isn't a message just for special people. This is a message for every single human being. And it gives this confidence, this confident expectation. So faith is a confident expectation, being the proof of things we do not see and the conviction of their reality. Faith perceiving as real fact what's not revealed to the senses. Other translations will say, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. So there's substance to the things hoped for and evidence. This isn't just a feel-good message. This is something that has substance to it and evidence where the world can see it and they'll see what you have and say, what is it? What's different about you than me? Why are you experiencing life this way and I'm not? It's because you don't know what I know. You don't know the love that God has for me. It's the greatest of all of these things that flows in everything. I always say that we like to get this list together every day and we say, okay, first I'm going to put God first. I'm going to get up and have my devotional time and my prayer time, and then I'll finish that, and then I'll eat breakfast and go to work and go to the gym or whatever it might be. And we have God and then everything else listed up. But we shouldn't be making this message of God's love number one on our list. We shouldn't be making it one in every single thing that we do, how we walk through life. And then this expectation starts to happen. Faith arises on the inside of us. And then things just start to happen. We tap into a frequency that we didn't even know existed because we can't see it until we put in or we step in to that frequency, which I'll get into more in a second. But it says, again, faith perceiving as real fact what's not revealed to the senses. That's so powerful. That's so powerful because we have our five senses. What you see, taste, touch, smell, and hear. But then we have the sixth sense of faith that allows us to see things that none of our senses can show us. So we have this natural world around us, and we can use our five senses to see the world as everyone else sees it and respond to the world like everybody else responds. But any animal does that. I have a cat sitting right over here and a dog somewhere back here, right back here. And they use their five senses to react to what's going on around them. So if I'm petting my dog, she's real happy. If I'm not, she pokes me with her wet nose constantly until I have to yell at her. And then her other sense of hearing and seeing my angry face tell her she needs to go lay back down in her bed over there. But every animal goes through life responding to their five senses. But I think you and me, being God's highest form of creation, are a little bit smarter than some dog or some cat or some raccoon or something. I don't know. But we're so reactionary to the world around us, and we're living a natural life whenever we're called to something supernatural, above and beyond what this natural world can bring us, because we know the power that we possess and we know the love that God has for us as his children, each and every single person. And so what we do, and you may have noticed I have my pencil here and I got my handy dandy iPad out again. I'm gonna show, this is how it makes sense to me, and we'll get into it. So here we have a frequency, wavelengths, vibrations, however you want to say it. And down here, I would call this the natural, and that's accessed by what you see, taste, touch, smell, and hear. But then there's this other frequency that we're talking about, heaven's frequency. And we'll say heaven, or you could say spirit. This could be flesh. This is how I imagine it taking place. You have your soul. I'm going to use red here. This is your soul. And most of the time, we're living down here. And when traffic's bad, we react to traffic in a negative way, especially if you live in Houston. I think I've mentioned that multiple times already in the, 4 episodes of this show, but it's horrible. But anyway, you respond to traffic, or somebody is mean to you, or you get a hateful comment from somebody online, or a number of different things. Your boss does something you don't like, whatever it might be, and we react. Our senses are telling us something, and we get upset. Maybe it's something you watched on the news. I mean, it's an election year. There's plenty of opportunities to get upset right now, regardless of what side or wherever you lie on the political scale. But most people are living down there in the natural. But then, say you're somebody who goes to church or reads a podcast, listens to a podcast, you read a book, something gets your soul stirred up. Then what happens is it jumps up here and you tap into heaven's frequency. And it's great. Maybe a miracle happens. Maybe you went to a healing conference and you just got all stirred up. You had someone pray for you and boom, something is healed on the inside of you. And that is an amazing experience to have, because you tapped into something that was here all along. It's been within you. And then your spirit lines up with the Spirit of God that's in all and through all, and boom, healing takes place. Peace that surpasses all understanding takes place. Depression goes away. Anxiety, whatever it might be, it just melts away. When you are at that frequency, at heaven's frequency, sickness can't survive. Depression can't survive. Poverty and lack can't survive up there. But what tends to happen is we have an experience up here, but then we go home. We go home and we might be riding it for a while, but then Monday happens and you go back to work. You hit that traffic. You got to get the kids to school. Number of different things happen. And then next thing you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever, you are back down here. Just living as if that never happened. Sometimes whatever you're going through comes back. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it doesn't, but whatever, maybe it's something new takes place. Maybe that you're angry about something different now, but whatever it might be, what if we learn to live up here all the time? What if we abided in faith, hope, and love? What if we abided in his word, his thoughts toward us, his logic toward us? What if we lived at that place? Then we wouldn't have this reactionary life. We would be able to really just go through life totally different. We could go through life like you are the child of God that you are, this person that is the temple of the Holy Spirit, more powerful than anything that's ever walked this planet before. That's you, that's me. Now we get to experience it because we're so full of his spirit. I mean, it's already there, but it fills our soul, it fills our body, and we're just walking at heaven's frequency. Amazing things take place. We're accessing this by faith. And what happens when we hit this right here, a lot of times everyone gets real excited. I mean, I've been to so many healing services and I've experienced so much for myself, and everyone just loses their mind, and it's just this exciting time. And it's worth getting excited about. Don't get me wrong. But I think we get very excited about it because we think that this is something that most people aren't able to experience for themselves. So it's like, oh man, I was down here, now I'm up here, something broke loose on the inside of me, the chains have fallen off, and now I've had an experience. I'm not saying don't celebrate, but if we lived at that place, if we lived up here, if we realized that this isn't necessarily a supernatural, this thing is getting pretty sloppy, isn't it? But actually, I'm going to erase some of it. Boom, got it. Isn't that amazing? The magic of editing. Anyway, we look at this up here as if it's a supernatural occurrence. But maybe this is not supernatural, but it's just the way we're naturally meant to live. And for whatever reason, it's all different for different people, but we've settled in this other place. And this isn't natural anymore. This is a sub-natural way of living. And I don't know about you, but for me, when I think of it that way, where sickness and lack and depression and stress and anxiety and guilt and all these different negative emotions are running my life, or these negative experiences are running my life, I'm not just living like everyone else. I am in a sub-natural place. So this isn't supernatural. When I jump up into heaven's frequency, that's not supernatural. That's natural. And anything other than that is subnatural. It's less than what you were created to experience. Whew, that fires me up. Why am I settling for that? Why am I dealing with a little bit of pain, like my little achy back, or my knee bothers me sometime? Why am I dealing with this stuff whenever that is so far below what I was created for? What are we doing? Why am I settling even for those nitpicky little things, the little negative comments that I'll make throughout the day? Why do I do that? I'm on a sub-natural frequency whenever I am complaining all the time, or talking about people behind their back, or thinking lesser of myself. I know so many people that won't even let you take a picture of them because they see themselves so low. It's like, no, you are a child of God. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Beautiful, perfect. I mean, we all have areas that we can work on, but when you begin with this, when you start saying, I don't have to see myself this way, I don't have to live this way anymore, then I start walking it out. And it doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes it does, but most of the time, this is a work in progress. But you're no longer going to settle for the life that you've always settled for. Now you're going to say, you know what? I am better than this. Maybe my knees hurt because I'm a little overweight right now and I need to do something about it. But I know that I can. I know that I'm equipped to do something, to discipline myself and to fuel my body, this temple, in a way that I probably haven't been for a long time. Or maybe I shouldn't, I don't have any money, but now I'm going to quit having impulse buys on Amazon. Every time I get a thought, I get on that app and I buy it right away. You'll just start making better decisions. You'll start moving through life differently. And before you know it, it all just falls into place and life is good. I'm telling you, you'll be able to experience real heaven on earth, a life of fulfillment and joy and peace and happiness and abundance. That's what this whole point of life is about, is living at heaven's frequency. And reality is you're going to dip down every now and then. We're human. It's going to happen. Don't beat yourself up. But whenever you've lived up here for so long, whenever you do dip down, you're like, whoa, this isn't, what am I doing? Why am I experiencing this? This isn't normal to me. When before, whenever you'd have these moments that jump up there and back down, that was weird. That was something that was abnormal. No, let's flip the equation. Say, I am living at heaven's frequency. I'm abiding in his word. I am consciously aware of God's presence in my life all the time. And he's in me, and he's in that person that's really ticking me off right now. But whew, it's all right. It's all right. I see past all this mess. I see into the spirit. I see into heaven's frequency, and things just change. It might seem weird, but I'd rather live this weird than the weird that everyone else lives of just reactionary living. I actually knew a guy who was teaching about this type of thing. Not exactly like this, but he was teaching about healing and peace that surpasses understanding and joy unspeakable. And someone came up to him and was making fun of him, saying, well, that kind of thing is weird. And like I said, it's better be this weird than how most people are in their weirdness. But anyway, he said, how can you say you believe in healing when you were sick last year? Or I saw you lose your temper a while back. How can you say that any of this is true? And the guy said, well, I'd hate to see where I'd be if I didn't believe any of this. And I just love that, because we can't put this pressure on ourselves to say, I'm never going to mess up, or you're really going through, you're trying to abide in God's word, and you're trying to abide in faith, hope, and love, and just be in a conscious awareness of God's presence in your life and the spirit within you. But, you know, sometimes stuff happens for whatever reason. And there could be a number of different reasons why it happens, but I'd hate to see where I'd be if I didn't believe this way. I'd rather, what's the saying? Aim for the stars and land on the moon, or however that saying goes, because man, we're living a life that is so reactionary. I want a life that needs a supernatural explanation. Something where people look at me and say, what is it? What's so different? Let's have a conversation, my friend, because you're more powerful than you realize. We're all more powerful than we realize. We just need to awaken to that reality. So anyway, I really hope that you enjoyed this today. Thank you so much for spending time with me. And let's keep washing our brains of some stuff, whether it's old religious thoughts or just negative, low self-esteem, whatever it might be. Let's keep washing our brains of all this nonsense. Am I right?